Hey, Matewil, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, and how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you very much. So please tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Akani? Where did you grow up? Things like that.
Okay. So Akani was born and raised in Soweto. I studied in Innerdale, where I lived when I was in primary school.
Mhm.
Then when I started high school, I moved back to Soweto. And then for varsity as well, I was living in Soweto and studying at UJ,
Okay.
University of Johannesburg, to be exact. Yes.
Okay, cool. So talking about studying at UJ, did you know what you wanted to study at UJ and what did you study at UJ?
Yes, so I sort of like decided, I think I was in grade 10, what I wanted to study, which was geology.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's what I studied at UJ. And I thought I just was going to work, in a mine somewhere or doing exploration geology. Yeah, um, that's what I thought anyway.
Interesting. Our geology, it's not really something quite common. We hear a lot about people working in the mine and all of that. So, what inspired geology? How did you come to that conclusion?
And so I always loved science, loved nature. And so I knew it was something to do with that. I was going to study something in that line. But then, when I was in high school, we had like a chance to visit like some of the universities. So they
Yeah.
took a few of the like top performing students, took us to UJ. It was Rao back then. They had this careers day, or not really a careers day, but it was a showcase of different faculties. And I
Oh,
attended a lot of the stuff. And I remember the things that stuck with me was the physics one and the geology one.
okay.
So my maths and science was not like wonderful, but my geography was okay. So I thought, maybe the geology one is the one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So clearly you're giving us an indication that you're a smart kid because you
Uh,
said you took the smart
Not
one.
smart enough to do physics, but yeah.
Cool stuff. So how long was the geology qualification?
So I did a 3-year degree, and then I did honors, and then I did a master's, which I didn't finish. So all in all, I spent about 5.5 years um, at UJ doing geology. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And in terms of funding, did you fund yourself or was it something that you had a bursary for?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mix. So getting into the school, I had a partial bursary because of my matric marks. Hint, hint. And then it was my parents. And then for my honors, I got funding from the Council for Geoscience, who
Okay.
were then supposed to, or rather, I was supposed to work back my bursary after finishing.
Okay, cool. So you spent roughly 5.5 years at UJ with geology. You said you didn't finish your master's. What happened after you sort of completed your studies?
So when I left university, um, two things happened. So, the company for which we were doing research for went bankrupt. So that sort of killed the master's sort of study. And
Okay.
then another thing was because it was like the recession, this is 2008, 2009.
Mm.
A lot of companies were not hiring and that sort of thing. So I ended up not having to work back my bursary with the Council for Geoscience. And I had to start looking for a job, which then took 2 years.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, it wasn't the easiest of things, but yeah,
Sure.
it's on the journey of that.
I mean, we'll pick up a little bit on the 2 years in terms of what happened in that period. But after the 2 years, what did you do? Where did you find?
So I found work at one of the major banks.
Mhm.
I joined via a graduate program, and yeah, I went into investment banking, specifically in the treasury department, and I did that for about 6.5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So now this is a geologist in a bank. Interesting. How did that go for you?
It was very challenging at first. You can imagine. I did science all my life. The last time I did accounting or anything of that sort was like in grade 9.
Yeah.
So I had to like learn a new language, learn, new set of skills and so on,
Mm,
a different environment that I had never imagined myself in.
mm.
But with time, it got better. I got better at it, learned a bit, and yeah, then all of after a while, it just became natural. It's just,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, sounds like so you're now an investment banker. You did that for about 6.5 years, you say.
yes, yes.
Okay. And just take us a little bit into, I mean, the treasury environment is quite interesting. I think that's where the actual investment deals really happen, or where the fun stuff happens. How is that like? Is it as busy as we see on these movies or things like that?
Actually, it is. When you see on like movies, like I'm just trying to think of that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, about Jordan Belfort. I forgot the name of the movie now. It's sort of like that environment, a glorified call center, basically, people shouting across, on calls, international sort of stuff going on, lots of big numbers being thrown at you. Yeah, so it is like in the movies, highly stressful, high
Mm,
adrenaline sort of things. Yeah, the kind of amounts are sort of, mind-boggling.
mm.
Uh, and yeah, I mean, so the treasury, for those who don't know, is basically where the bank funds itself,
Yeah.
because money, I mean, the bank has to find money from somewhere, then decide how to deploy that money and so on. So that was the function that the treasury sort of did, treasury and global markets. So I was in a team that looked after the African treasury, so the bank in the rest of Africa,
Okay.
and then doing other things like energy efficiency, carbon trading, and all sorts of weird and wonderful things.
Oh,
Uh,
wonderful. So looking at an African desk, that meant possibly traveling into some of the neighboring African countries, I'm assuming.
yes, so we had a portfolio that looked after specifically Namibia,
Yeah.
Malawi, Lesotho, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, and with sort of like little forays into like Mozambique, Angola, and a few others, but mainly SADC. Yeah,
Okay.
mainly SADC. Yeah.
Well, cool. Sure. Sounds like an amazing thing. At least even though you didn't get into mining and exploration and things like that, you still got an element of traveling.
Mhm.
Cool. So now take a step back, and I mean, I know like this whole idea of moving into investment banking, for you, it wasn't necessarily planned. It was an opportunity that came through. So what was your intent in that space? Did you want to stay for that 6.5 year period and then transition, or was it something that you thought you could build a career out of?
I thought I could build a career because initially when I started, I wanted to get into investment banking, pure investment banking,
Yeah.
looking at mining finance
Ah,
because
okay.
it was like a natural fit, geology, whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is like a quick way to get myself into that because I thought I was going to first work in a mine and then do maybe one or two courses in finance and then try and end up in banking.
Okay.
Whereas this time it was going to be the other way around. So that's what I thought I'd do. Didn't quite turn out that way, but that was the intention. Yeah.
Okay, cool stuff. So then after 6.5 years, what did you then do?
So then I went into business. So I had started I had registered a business a couple of years before that,
Okay.
and I'd started just with a small few minor stuff at the time, and yeah, then at the end of uh, 2017 or so, I
Mhm.
went into that full time.
Ah, okay. So you left the investment banking work into your full
Investment.
time. Sure. Okay. And what was the nature of the business? Is it something that you can share, or is it
Yeah,
something?
yeah. I do three or four things mainly.
Mhm.
Uh, One thing is logistics. So logistics, just simply getting things from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Uh, the second one, selling beds. So I partnered with someone who owned a bed manufacturing plant,
Mm.
and I used to, well, I still do, uh, get beds made and then I sell them to customers. I also I also write,
Mhm.
so I'm an author. published author. And what else do I do? Oh, yes, and construction. So, yeah, I run a construction company. We do everything from writing, drawing plans, getting them approved, then actually building the thing, and if you'd like, also furnishing, interior decor, that sort of thing.
Nice. So you've got your hands spread out a little bit in terms of, and I mean, I can assume it's hard. Are you doing it alone? Do you have partners that you're working with, or how's it working?
So I have partners in most of the things that I do. Like I'm saying, so with the bed business, I mean, sort of like a partnership with the manufacturer. With the construction, I partner with people from different disciplines. So basically, your engineer, your architects, interior designers, and that sort of thing. And my value add is the project management. So I put all of those things together and to deliver a final product. So there comes Dumeleng with his windfall of money, and he wants to build this, um, dream home.
Yeah,
So we come, sit down, draw up what your dream home would look like. Do you have a piece of land that you'd like to build? Check out whether the land is suitable. Um, then start, putting all of that together. Then actually building the house, and then you come at the end, you choose your paint colors, you choose your furniture, and that sort of thing. So, yeah. So a lot of the work that I do has to do with other people. So I don't have all of the skills, obviously, to to carry out all of these things,
yeah,
but I've sort of learned how to put things together or put the right people together to deliver a particular thing. And obviously, on the logistics sort of part, you'd need drivers, you need laborers, that sort of thing.
yeah,
So there are a lot of people that I work with from time to time, and it's a flexible sort of arrangement because
yeah.
it depends on the demands at the time.
Sure. And what would you say has been some of the challenges of running your own business? I mean, you've worked, you've seen what that looks like, and now you're in full time running your business. What are some of the challenges you're experiencing?
So there's a few things. So one of the challenges is the admin.
Mm,
So it's not very easy running a company professionally or legally or administratively correctly in South Africa.
mm,
Um, I think yeah, our government can can do quite a lot in that a sense in terms of making it easier for people. It's not easy to
yeah.
get your business registered and all of that, and also to comply with like tax and that sort of thing. The
Mm,
receiver is not very friendly to smaller businesses. You're sort of treated with a lot of suspicion.
mm,
Um, they want to, uh, ask you about every little minute detail, and are you sure you made that money or you spent that on this,
mm,
and all sorts of hoops you need to run through. Secondly, because you're dealing with people, it it has its challenges in the sense that sometimes you come across crooks, sometimes you come across people who are lazy,
yeah.
sometimes you come across people who promise more than what they can deliver. Sometimes dealing with the human aspect and also just the financial aspect of it. It costs a lot of money to make money,
Yeah.
and getting funding is not the easiest of things to do.
Mm,
And also having to manage that money,
mm,
um, and managing yourself as well, because I think one of the greatest pitfalls of people is that they think entrepreneurship is like this like glorified form of laziness. So you
yeah.
just wake up at any time you'd like, you know, you just wake up, something, some big deal will just land on your lap.
Yeah.
Or or because you don't work for a boss and all of these other funny, theories that you hear. But the truth of the matter is you need to have like you'll have a hundred bosses who demand 100 things from you at times that you are not um, most suited to. I'm like, for example, I'm not a morning person, but construction is a morning business. People
Yeah.
start working very early, so you have to put that aside and put your hands to the grind. Also, understanding that you don't have all of the like that big support system that you used to have in a formal environment. So,
Mm,
for example, when I worked at the bank, someone took care of the admin, someone took care of the finance,
mm,
someone else went to go and get the business,
mm,
someone else goes and meets with the client, someone else has to do the heavy lifting, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in your own business or you're starting out, you have to do all of those things yourself. You might outsource a few things like the accounting and that sort of thing, but still you need to have a working understanding of what it is that the accountant is doing
Yeah.
and what it means and what they're tracking, what they, you also need to make sure that all of your invoices and everything is written in the right, administratively correct way, the
Mm.
right way for the tax man, and keeping good records and all of that sort of thing. So it's not easy. It needs you to be. It takes a little bit of tenacity and resilience, and yeah, just a never say die attitude that if you are committed to something, you're going to do it,
Yeah.
and you know that if you don't, and that's the thing, if you don't do it, it's not going to get done.
Yeah.
It's not a big, you can't call in sick and say, I'm not feeling well and this and hope that by the time you come back from leave, someone else will have picked up
We'll
from it.
pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Sure.
those are, I guess, in a nutshell, the kind of challenges that you face.
Sure. I'm glad you've shared some of the real issues that you face as a business person, and how, I mean, you've shared some ideas of how you can overcome some of it, and some of them are structural issues that we can't really overcome because of the type of country we live in, and how much we need to kind of work towards improving that. Now, I want to take you back a little bit. I mean, you spoke about an element of authoring in your business as well.
Yes.
And let's talk about, I know you don't want to talk a lot about it, but let's talk about Lessons from the Desert, which is one of the books you
Okay.
published. And it ties in with the 2 years,
Mhm.
because I often think people don't appreciate how difficult it is as a graduate to find employment. The assumption is you'll always finish your qualification and you'll jump into a job opportunity. What were some of your realities in that 2 year period?
Yeah, so I wrote a book about a 2-year period that between leaving varsity and finding work.
Yeah.
So maybe to set the scene, I was a graduate in the sciences from a supposedly leading university
Mhm.
in the country, and I had an honors degree in what is supposed to be a scarce skill.
Yeah.
So I mean, the government provides funding for scarce skills and all of that, and there's this a lot of thing of saying, oh, we have a shortage uh, of scientists, we have a shortage of this and whatever, and you know, so I could have been forgiven for assuming that, leaving university, I'd walk into a job somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't into a job anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so it came with a lot of, uh, you doubt your self-worth, you doubt what you studied, you doubt some of the choices that you've made. Um, and it's very hard, especially having to explain to people that you're not working. And at the time, a lot of people would just say things flippantly like, oh, but maybe you're not trying hard enough. Or are
Yeah.
you sure you're applying for all of the jobs you should? Or are you like really serious about this? I mean, you're very educated and all of these things. Or why don't you just start a business, which is one of those irritating ones. And
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, it's not that easy to start a business. I now but yeah, it was very hard. And I used to joke, I used to think there was a point where I had lost hope, and I used to think I'd probably never make it out of this or make it out of it alive. And I used to joke with a couple of my friends, you included, that if I ever make it out of this, I'm gonna write a book. So yeah, somehow I did make it out, and then I wrote the book. It was very hard because I'm actually a very private person. I don't really like talking about myself and my struggles or whatever else that I'm going through. But
Yeah.
I sort of felt that I might not be the only person who's going through what I'm going through.
Mm.
So it might be helpful if I told someone who's going through it that
Yeah.
these things do happen, and this is how you could overcome, and this is how you could walk through it, and this is how you could get through it.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah, that was the.
definitely. And I think it's been helpful because it's one of the reasons.
Hmm.
Oh, you think I'm saying it's helpful because it's one of the reasons why we mentor students. It's that we want to
Yeah.
talk about these stories of how real it is for people. And sometimes I look at you driving a nice car, living in a nice house, and I assume everything is working out perfectly, but I have no idea where you come from, what you've gone through, and what you've been through to get to that point. And I think it's a reality of where we live in, that even though you have the best qualification, like as you said, it's part of what we advocate for. Go for scarce skills, you'll get a better job opportunity. The reality
Yeah.
is not like that, because we just came off a crisis around that time.
Hmm.
Companies had to let people go. We are in a crisis now. Companies are faced with the same challenges. So it's a very difficult thing for companies to recover. And I guess the easy assumption is, why don't you then go to business? I mean, you're very educated. Surely you could start something. And the reality is, it's also not that easy to start a business,
Yeah.
especially with the funding limitations we have. Any plans of writing up another book? I know we talk a lot about you writing. Any plans, and maybe talk a little bit about how difficult it is to write?
So yeah, writing is not the easiest thing, I guess, especially if you have to write in a structured way, in the form of a book. So I do a lot of blogging, right? So I used to blog for News 24 and a few other platforms. That was slightly easier because something happens in the news. I sit down, I think about it, I get down, I write, and then I send it off, and it's done. Or I'm sitting and I write something on Facebook, and then it keeps, running.
Yeah,
And but to like actually write a book, it's a bit hard. You need to, and there's a lot of admin sort of involved. It's not as easy as a process as some people think, that you just sit down, type, then it to the publisher, and then it goes off. It's
yeah,
also quite an involved sort of process. But in terms of the book that I'm busy with, um, I remember when I first released my first book,
mm,
people thought I was releasing this book because there's a lot of things that I like to talk about: politics, wealth, and that sort of thing, about power, financial power, especially. It's something that's I've always been fascinated by.
mm,
So I've been putting things together, thoughts together, talking to some people, getting, uh, you know, just asking, questions like, so what is wealth?
mm,
What is poverty?
mm,
How do people who are poor get out of poverty? Why do wealthy people tend to stay wealthy, for example? Um, who are the wealthiest people in the country? Is it the people we see in the newspapers on the Forbes list? Is it someone else?
mm.
Um, w- what? How do politics and business? How do those things interact? How do they work together? What what positive things can one draw from that? Um, how do people build wealth, for
Yeah,
example?
mm,
So, and these things are for me very fascinating because I, and like I said, I'm from Soweto, and I know a lot about poverty from my lived experience,
mm.
but I never really knew. So why are things the way that they are, and how can they change? And so it was basically just a matter of finding the people for whom those things have changed, and
Yeah,
try and find out. Oh, okay, so this is how they made it. This is what they did. This is what they didn't do. This is uh, this is what this means. That sort of thing. So um, I guess that's the book that
that
I've
we all
I've been
expect.
writing. Yeah, that's the book that everyone has always expected, and which is part of the reason why it's so hard to release it, because you're thinking you just want it to be perfect. You keep working, reworking on that, writing this. Information keeps changing. I remember when Steinhoff blew up, that sort of blew up one of my chapters. Um, about Stellenbosch and that. But yeah, um, I hope I've put enough teasers to get people interested in reading the thing when it finally
When
comes
it
out.
finally lands. No, no. I think you've put enough hooks that makes us wanna look forward to it and see what is the final product, and what wisdom are you gonna learn from it. And maybe just out of curiosity as well,
Yes.
what else do you do? I mean, you've spoken about, and I know you say you're a private person. So you do other stuff for the community. You're a pastor's kid.
I'm not sure that's the way to go.
So, what other stuff do you do?
Okay, so like you said, I'm involved in ministry.
Mm,
Um, so music is one of the things that I sort of do or used to do prior to the lockdown,
yeah,
but film is coming soon. Um, and yeah, and I guess we do a lot of work with different what do they call them? Non-profit organizations.
yeah,
Yeah, so everything from soup kitchens to providing clothing to helping, with mentoring people, which is something I used to struggle with. Remember speaking to you about it quite a few times. That a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, Akani, could you please mentor me on this? Could you please?" And you think, I don't think I have much to teach anyone. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, so uh, I feel maybe in a nutshell that I want to do for people what I wish someone had done for me.
yeah,
When I went to university, I didn't know much about university except for the experiences of maybe my older sister,
yeah,
and she was in a different faculty and whatever. So there's a lot of challenges that I had to come across that I'd not been warned about, I'm not prepared for, I didn't know.
yeah,
There's a lot of um, yeah, a lot of things that one faces and one has to deal with that they didn't know about. And I want to be able to do that for other people. And I want to become that solution or that thing because it's not like a lot of things, and not everything that we need help with needs money, for example. Some
yeah,
just need time, and some just needs, and orientation, exposure, and that sort of thing. So
mm,
that you're exposed to different things and you're exposed to better things. And and I'm grateful for the fact that I've been exposed to different worlds, so to speak. I mean,
yeah,
the world of science is a very different world from the world of finance, which is a different world from the world of religion and faith, and
yeah,
all of these things have different things that they've taught me, and I'd like to be able to help other people navigate through those same things because we don't all have to reinvent the wheel. We don't
true,
all have to find out the hard way. We don't always have to, we don't all have to first make a little bit of money, lose it, and then start fixing. We don't have to all get into debt
yeah,
or unhelpful debt. We don't all have to, fail at university. We don't all have to struggle with choosing the right career, for example,
yeah,
or finding out about careers that exist out there. Because that's, yeah. So those are I guess, the few things um uh, that are close to my heart, if I
mm.
have any left.
Awesome. That's quite cool, man. I mean, every time I hear you speak about these things, it's quite exciting, and I'm glad you've selected a few ideas to share with us so that we can know a little bit more about yourself. Sort of as we wrap up the conversation, what would be your advice to young people that are sitting there and feeling like, you know what, it's 2020. I thought I would matriculate this year. It doesn't look like it. I haven't been to school. I'm not able to sort of get through what I need to. I don't have the resources that I need. If I look around me, it's all poverty and difficult. What keeps me going? What should I wake up for the next day?
I think maybe I'll respond with a few cliches. And the reason why they are cliches is because they're actually true.
Yeah.
So someone said the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and
Mhm.
the day you find out why. So I think if you can invest time and effort into trying to find out what your purpose is in life,
Yeah.
it makes things a lot easier. It's easier to what's the word, to endure certain things if
Yeah.
you know why,
Yeah.
and to keep going if you think you have a bigger plan and a bigger mission and a bigger role, right?
Yeah.
um Also, your present circumstances are exactly that. It's a circumstance.
Mm.
It's an outside thing. And circumstance, circum means around, stance means standing. It's things that are standing around you. It's not you.
Yeah.
So just because it looks like failure, it looks like this, it looks like whatever, it doesn't mean you are all of those things. You are not your failure. Sorry, my battery is getting a bit low. Let me
No.
try and hook myself up to a power supply. Ah, there we go. Yes. So you are not what you're going through.
Mm.
You're not the failures. You're not all of those things that are written on your report card or in your performance review.
Yeah.
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 So you just need to keep going. After you found your purpose, discover your purpose, and then the other things will sort of fall into place.
And I really like what you're saying around circumstances, that it's things around you, it's not who you are. And as you go through life, you don't go through life holding on to things that will pass, and that will become different in the future. So I really like how you've put that nicely together. So thank you so much for your time, Akani. I think you've shared a lot of insights with us, and I know it's been tricky because you're quite a busy man to get hold of. So thank you so much for your time and giving us an opportunity to chat to you.